what is going on with Shannon Sharpe and Shaquille O'Neal? Somebody need to explain it to me, because I saw the clip of Shannon Sharpe and Osho on Nightcap, where he was talking about, yeah, that shit was foul. I ain't gonna lie to you. Wow, sus. But I cleaned it up. Hey, yo, what the fuck? I cleaned it up. No diddy. Yeah, so I seen the clip on Nightcap where, Shannon was talking about how Shaq is envious of Jokic, and that's the reason why he didn't want him to win MVP. And, the fact that Jokic was a better player, Jokic is being recognized as one of the best players in the league. And, one of the GOATs, and he's never been recognized in that situation, all because he never worked hard. He never did this, blah, blah. Like, he was always known as the most dominant player in the game, but never like a Mount Rushmore great. And it's like, all right, Shannon, I understand where you were going with it, highlighting that, yes, Shaq could have definitely worked a little harder in his career. But I don't necessarily think that there's jealousy. I just think that Shaq was being honest with Jokic and said, yo, I think Shea was the MVP. Just the reason why me and Al just talked about it just now is that Shea led Oklahoma City to the #1 seed in the Western Conference. Listen to what we're talking about. The Oklahoma City in the Western Conference. So you got to remember that this ain't no easy feat. And this is why I believe that he deserved it. So I don't necessarily believe that Shaq is jealous of Jokic. What do you got to be jealous of Jokic for? He's been waiting for a big man to be able to be the face of the league. Yeah, Shaq only won 1 MVP, but so what? It don't matter. We still got Shaq as a top 10 player all time. So for Shaq then to respond and was like, yo, such and such, you would top 51 play out of 100, which is pretty good in the NFL, I will say. And then they put out a diss record like, yo, Shaq, you got to relax. But if we just talking about the facts, like, yo, Shaq was right about Shea. Shannon, I understand what he's saying, but Shannon got to stop with this jealousy nonsense, because I don't think that there is no jealousy in regards to Shaq. Shaq used to call out Dwight Howard. Shaq calls out Embiid. Shaq is the godfather of the bigs. So if he's going to be critical of a guy, he's going to keep it real. Why not let him keep it real? There's nothing wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? So I don't necessarily believe that was necessary for Shannon to say. I get what he was saying, but he kind of took a little too far. Al, what are your thoughts on, the whole Shaquille O'Neal, Shannon Sharpe situation? And, do you think that Shannon was right for what he said? Do you think that Shaq was right for how he responded? Shaq's a character. Thoughts on that?
From what I understand, what Shannon said was Shaquille O'Neal, great player. By Shaquille O'Neal's admission, if he worked harder, if he invested more into his body, he invested more into practicing, he invested more into his craft, he would have been respected more, and we would have gotten a lot more out of him. I don't disagree with Shannon. I don't even necessarily think I heard Shannon say that he was jealous. The only thing that I think that he said was Shaquille O'Neal probably feels that he should have had more MVPs, which I feel Shaquille O'Neal should have had. Shaquille O'Neal feels that he should be mentioned more in the GOAT conversation. I agree with Shaquille O'Neal on that. If that's what he's saying, he should be mentioned more in the GOAT conversation. But what Shannon said about him ain't wrong.
Yeah, it ain't wrong. But in regards to him saying that he might feel a little envious, like, why should he? I mean, you got to think about the time that Shaq played in. Like, Shaq was the most dominant player in the league, right? But we got to understand that, he played in the era with Jordan. He played in the era with other greats, and Jordan kind of held everybody back. I think if Jordan wasn't around, maybe Shaq gets another 2 or 3 MVPs. Who the hell knows? There's plenty of times where Shaq should have definitely won some MVPs, right? We don't know why. We don't understand why the league didn't really look at him as he needs to be the guy. We have no idea. There were years that Shaq put up monumental numbers, right? And never went higher than like third or whatever it was in the MVP race. So there was nothing that he didn't do. It wasn't like if he slimmed down 15 more pounds, his numbers would have been much better. His numbers would have probably been the same. But
you don't think if Shaq put more effort into taking care of his body and put more effort into his crafts, he wouldn't have been better than what he was?
But Al, what I'm saying is that the numbers that the man put up are MVP numbers. If the league doesn't look at him as an MVP, he did all he could. He did all he could. That's all I'm saying. Is that even when people say he didn't work as hard, the man is the top 7 player of all time. He should have more MVPs because of that. Kobe is a top 10 player of all time. He only has 1. So when you talk about 2 guys that were literally on the same team for many years and they only have 2 MVPs to speak for it, that says more about the league than it says about them.
You said part of what I was about to say right then and there. 2 players that were on those teams. One thing about Shaq is, and I think it's unfair, but what you really have to, and Kobe, if you really want to bring him into the conversation too, like they were always in a Batman and Robin situation. Whether Shaq was Batman or whether Shaq was Robin is really up to you to say, you know, and for the 3 teams that he was really successful with. But he was always in a Batman and Robin situation. It was always a 1-2 punch with him and another great player.
Right.
So you're never going to really see the individual impact like you will see from like a Joker, where the separation of talent on the team is so great, where it's undeniable that one player is the person that's really driving that force. Because he had Kobe, he had Wade, he had Penny, right?
Right.
So all of those are all top players, like all-time players.
But I see, the thing is, I don't necessarily agree with that take, because even if you're gonna say Penny, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can we say that Scottie Pippen was better than Penny?
Yes. You could say that. I mean, you could say that, but you could argue that too.
There's no argument. Scottie is a top 50 all-time player. Penny is not. He's not. In the short years that Penny was in the league and doing his thing, Pippen had seasons just like that and was a two-way player. So when you talk about a guy that was a sidekick to one of the best players in the league, it didn't stop Jordan from winning MVPs. So how does that stop Shaq from winning MVPs? The only reason why it did is because Shaq was like Wilt Chamberlain. He was bigger and stronger and more powerful than everybody else. And the league looked at it like, well, he's supposed to do that. So what? So you're literally penalizing a guy for being who he is. That's dumb.
Yeah, so and I agree with that. I agree with that sentiment.
It's that over time the league has made their own rules in regards to what an MVP is. This is all I'm saying. So it's like when we look at the MVP trophies, when we look at MVP awards, they really don't hold too much weight to me because of who's voting for these motherfucking awards. It don't make sense to me. You know what I'm saying?
I think the NBA tries to drive narrative with these awards that they give out to. So I 100% agree with you. They don't hold as much weight because it's not necessarily given to the person who deserves it. There are a lot of years where, we can't give it to him because of this. We shouldn't give it to this player because of that.
Right.
And Shaq fell victim to that, but it still doesn't negate what Shannon Sharpe said. And I still don't think that Shannon Sharpe came for his head like that. Like Shay been suffering ever since Amanda Seals left his podcast.
Well, listen, I'm gonna say this, and Bryson said it best. He said Shannon isn't wrong, but I struggled to see how he drew the SGA take to Shaq being jealous of Joker. Man is one of the top 10 greatest players in history. That's what I'm saying, is that, okay, cool. If you disagree with Shaq saying that Joker wasn't the MVP, that's fine. But for you to now try to correlate a point that he's envious of Joker because Joker has 3 MVPs to his 1, I can't see how that makes sense. I really, really don't. Because as great as Joker is, I'm not putting Joker over Shaq all time.
No, I never would. I never would.
Not. That's what I'm saying. So it's like Joker may finish with 5 MVPs or whatever, right? But when we think about the impact that Shaq had on the NBA, Joker is not going to have that type of impact. He's just not. So Shaq left his imprint on the league. Shaq left his imprint on the league. It's not his fault that the league looked at him as this big ogre that didn't need to get fouled, that couldn't get to the free throw line because people, you know what I'm saying? They just like, well, you're supposed to finish that. No, a foul is a foul. Let me get to the line, right?
But then bring the fouls into it.
Than everybody, I'm supposed to just eat shit like that. That's corny to me. And that's why I believe that his 1 MVP is more of an indictment on the voters in the NBA than it actually is on his work ethic as an NBA player. He was a great player. He was a great player.
I'll show you this. I'll show you a piece about his work ethic. What was the one thing that Shaq was never good at?
Free throws.
A pure liability. What did the league figure out at some point with Shaq?
I mean, you have to foul him.
Foul him. Put Shaq on the line. It neutralizes him.
Okay.
He became so at a certain point, and at a certain point in the game, he became a liability to his team. How are you winning the MVP that many times when you're not working to get that better?
You want me to put your argument to shame right here?
I mean, you can. Look, you're the basketball guy. I'm not the basketball guy, but I'm just
I know.
This is just me being a fan observing, looking at it, like trying to think logically.
So let me go ahead and tell you who won the MVP in 1920. Giannis, right? You know what 1920 was? The 2019-2020 season.
Oh, you said, okay.
You know
said 1920. I was a little bit. What was his free throw percentage?
63%. So when you see what I'm saying? You got to stop, because when I hear the points that you're trying to make and they make sense, but when you look at the numbers for some of these dudes, not everybody can hit free throws. Giannis is not a great free throw shooter, but yet he has 2 MVPs. He has
Did his free throw percentage improve? Is my question.
Yes, but we're talking about the year that he won the award. It has nothing to do with improving. He won the award shooting 63% from the line. Is what I'm saying to you.
And Shaq's numbers were?
Shaq I think his highest free throw percentage at one point is probably like 60, 61 maybe. But the man still put up 29 points a game. Who cares about free throws?
That's what Giannis is doing.
It doesn't matter. The man averaged is so you're penalizing him. Oh, well, he could have averaged 36 if you hit free throws. He's still the best player in the league. Who cares?
He could have averaged 36 if he hit free throws. He could have averaged 36 if he took care of himself.
That's like saying a guy in baseball, if he was a better hitter, he would have probably hit 305 instead of 260 with 55 home runs. He's still the best player in the league. Who gives a shit about his average? Who cares? That's my whole thing. If you're the best player on the best team, that's what the NBA has told us. You're supposed to be the MVP. And Shaq, more times out of not, was the best player on the best team in the NBA because the Lakers were one of the most dominant teams when he was running. That's all I'm saying.
Was he the best player or was Kobe the best player?
Whichever one, they should have more than one, is what I'm saying. Whichever player, they should have more than one MVP.
I'll leave it at that because I could agree with that.
That's all I'm saying. And Rich said it just now. He said MVP is solely based on storyline. It's 100% true. It's 100% true in regards to that. It's what, and mind you, Rich, the storyline changes yearly. So it's not the same thing. It's whatever script they got, that's what they run with. That's all it is. That's all it is. So moving on, because, shouts to Joker. I don't want to seem like we hating on Joker. I don't want to seem like we hating on Shannon.
Definitely not.
It's just more about, just make it make sense. Like if it makes sense, if it's logical, I'm not gonna argue it. You know what I'm saying? But if if you've told me in years past that the best player on the best team wins the MVP, Shea should have won the MVP. That's all I'm saying. Moving on.